This is Larry Pollock and Luke Carroll coming to you from Underground Performance Gym Podcast. Today, we're going to talk about something a little bit different. We're going to talk about navigating the legal system and has to do with bodybuilding and life in general. A little different topic that I don't think too many people have discussed in our industry, but if you're in this industry, there's a good chance that you might be dealing with some of this stuff, and I'll explain why. So we ready?
Yeah. What's up, guys?
So let me give you some background. Um, I grew up in a upper class neighborhood. My father was a contractor. My mother was an accountant. We had a big house with a pool. I went to private school all the way up till I was 12 years old, and pretty sheltered upbringing. And then at 13, my parents got divorced. Um, Moved out of the upper class neighborhood into a kind of a lower class neighborhood in Reseda down in the San Fernando Valley. So I moved to Tarzana up in the hills to Reseda. Um, my neighbors were a group of Hispanic kids named oh, I forgot their name right now. But anyways, uh, they're rough kids, and it was a rough neighborhood. So I went from that to that. And school went from private school to public school. At that time, they had the busing going on. They were busing the blacks from the inner cities, Compton, Watts, and all that into our schools. So we had race riots and the whole thing going on. And coming from where I came from, this was like all way new to me. I didn't know anything about any of this kind of thing. Um, At the same time, at 13 years old, my older brother, who was a research scientist and a medical doctor, um, we became pretty close because I had gone on some trips with him, and he was murdered, actually shot execution style in the back of the head. I didn't find out what happened until actually recently, almost 40 years later, no, 30 years later. He was actually executed by the police in San Antonio, Texas.
Jesus.
So you can see my life took a drastic turn at that point. And I was a small kid, being 12 years old. And right away, I'm in this school where they're having race riots and, you know, a lot of older, bigger kids. My neighbors, the McIntyres, they were older, bigger kids picking on us. And so I had to figure out something to defend myself. So I I had taken karate classes when I was young, but still, when you're 100 pounds or whatever I was, um, and you're
How old
fight
were you by this point?
12,
Okay.
and then you know, the kids are, high school kids, much bigger than you. But I had to fight them, and I did fight them. And sometimes I got my ass kicked. Sometimes I won. Um, but in those days, you had no choice. Like, you were just going to fight, and either you fought back or you got your ass kicked. So my father got me a set of old Weider weights, and I started lifting weights. And quickly, I got interested in bodybuilding because one of my cousins was a bodybuilder, and I seen him, and he blew up really fast. And another friend of mine that was in school with me, he was a little bodybuilder kid, and he gave me the book Education of a Bodybuilder by Arnold Schwarzenegger. I read that book, and I decided that's what I wanted to do. So pretty quickly, I found myself made my way to the bodybuilding gym, and I was training right away at basically 13 years old with pro bodybuilders. Um, I started the racket club, and then within a few months after that, I was in a real bodybuilding gym with like the pro bodybuilders. Bertle Fox, Lee Haney, Rich Gaspari, all these kind of guys. And of course, I wanted to be like that, so I was doing everything in my power to get that way. I trained natural for all the way till I was 16. And at 16, I was at Steve Davis Gym, and I got a coach named Mike Sable, who was a Mr. Universe, and he didn't get me steroids. But anyways, I took my first steroid cycle at 16, which was Anavar, 2 milligrams a day. Actually, I'm sorry, 2 milligram pills, three a day. So I think they were two and a half
7.5.
milligrams. So it's 7.5 milligrams a day. And I grew very fast on that month. And from there, I kept competing and did very well. Actually, I won the Junior USA at 18, took second to Sean Ray at Team America that same year. And I put on quite a lot of size during that time. During that time when I was still going to high school, there was a lot of violence in high school, and I was fighting often, almost daily, probably. It was just like, it was almost like a sporting event. You get out for nutrition class or lunch class break or whatever it was, and I was fighting. And I did this all through junior high and all through high school, and I always fought blacks. Just because they were gangs there, and I was a big white kid, so I don't think I ever fought a white kid, not even once. They didn't want to fight with me, so I was always fighting the big black guys, and they were always like 6'5", something like this. Um, but anyways, I got involved in the steroids, and because as a bodybuilder, um, most bodybuilders, anyways, if you get involved in steroids, which a lot of bodybuilders do, it's just kind of the natural progression. And at that time, they weren't even illegal; they were just prescription. Um, but I got hooked up with a big steroid dealer, and he wanted me to be like his front man to supply like Olive Gold's Venice. And
This is when you were finishing high school, or you were like 16, 15?
I was
Mm.
18. I was just finished high school
Okay.
at 18 and 19. And so I was, you know, and I had met Mike Menser at that same time. I moved in with him. He was my roommate at the time, and basically that's what we were doing. So I was also bouncing in nightclubs at the time. Uh, Even though when I was 18, I was already bouncing in nightclubs because my bodybuilders friends from the gym that I trained with, they were all bouncing in nightclubs in Hollywood. So I bounced the Whiskey and the Rainbow, and I did that for a couple years. And back then, you could fight. And what I mean by that is, people would get drunk, they'd start shit, and us as bouncers, we'd break it up, and you could put ass whooping on people, and we did
Yeah.
pretty severely. Not without provocation, by the way. We never jumped on somebody for no reason.
Yeah.
They,
Usually drunk guys are confrontational, and you got to throw them out, and they're fighting you to not get thrown out.
yeah, I had some guy on Halloween. I don't know if it was a real sword or fake sword. It was dark, but he pulled a sword out on me, and I smashed his face in. So, anyways, um, fast forward, I competed in the Team America at 19, and right after that, I ended up in the hospital in emergency with severe ulcerative colitis, and I spent like 5 months probably in the hospital, maybe 6 months, something like that.
Jeez.
Almost died. Had to have my entire colon removed. Had a pull through surgery. Came through that, and then that really did a trip on my head because I really, like, all my life. I mean, at that point, I was like fully like, I'm going to be a pro bodybuilder. And when they did that, I thought, that I couldn't do it. I probably could do it, could have done it, but I just, at that, in my head, I was like, I had this surgery, I have a scar on my stomach now. Like, I don't know if I can do this. Mike Francois, by the way, he got the same thing with the ulcerative colitis and the pull through surgery, and
Yeah,
that
retired
ended. He retired.
Yeah.
Ended his career. So, um, I'm like in a situation where, like, okay, what do I do with myself? So, meanwhile, I'm like still like running around selling steroids, and This is when I really started to get introduced to females. And what I mean by that is like, yeah, I had like little girlfriends, but not really. And what I mean by that is I met this stripper girl, and I was very naive about women at the time, and I didn't really understand, how scandalous they can be. So I got with this stripper girl, and it was a toxic relationship. She was super jealous, and I'm on steroids, so we're fighting over like anything,
Everything.
everything. I go to the gym, and she's like accusing me of trying to be with some girl, which even if it wasn't even happening, it wasn't. But anyways, long story short, we're living in this apartment, and somehow the bath gets turned on. I don't know if she did, I did, I don't remember, but it floods the whole apartment. So the whole apartment's flooded, so we have to move out. So my friend Joe, who is a Hell's Angels, he had a trailer in front of his um, building that he lived in. He worked as he had a mechanic shop in a building down there, and he had this trailer out front. So he said we could stay in the trailer. But meanwhile, the trailer wasn't hooked up with electricity or running water. So we were planning to do that like the next day, but we got there that night, and we're unpacking stuff into the trailer, and Joe and his girlfriend, they said they're going to cook dinner, and they needed some groceries. So I sent my girlfriend Stacy, the stripper girl, took gave her my car, told her to go to the grocery store to get some groceries. And hour goes by, she's not back. I'm calling, she's not answering. A few hours goes by, I don't know where she is. Still gone with my car. She's not back. Joe's pissed because they were supposed to make dinner. She didn't come back with the car. Anyways, he goes in his building, locks up for the night, to go to sleep. And I'm stuck out here in this trailer in the middle of the night in a parking lot with no running water, no electricity. And by the way, we didn't have cell phones or any kind of phones at that time. All there was a payphone that was about 4 blocks away on the corner.
Did you have pagers at this time, or was it still pre-pagers?
They didn't have a pager. There
Didn't
was
have nothing.
nothing. So I am walking to this cell phone. I'm not cell phone, payphone where you put coins in. And I'm calling my friend who's bouncer at this place called Pelican's Retreat. And he tells me, yeah, Stacy's here, was here with her girlfriends. And her girlfriends were like
Okay.
drug addicts, who I knew like they were into heroin and all kinds of shit. She had just met these girls. So I already knew like she's partying with bad news. And anyways, they leave. All night I'm calling, trying to find out where she is because I'm kind of stuck without my car. Meanwhile, my car has a trunk load of steroids in it because I was due to deliver them to a customer the next day. So I got a car out there somewhere with a trunk load of steroids, and I don't know where she is. My The next morning, Joe, my friend the Hell's Angels, he has connections with somebody at the phone company, and I give him I was able to get a phone number to her girlfriend, and had been calling over there on the payphone, and they're just telling me bullshit. So Joe runs the phone number and gets me an address. I borrow a car, and I call them and I tell them, hey, I'm coming to get my car. And they say, oh, Mike or somebody from Peppermint. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Well, he's going to kick your ass. I have no idea what they're talking about. I just want my car back. So I go over there, and I walk up to the door. I knock on the door, and they're not answering, but there's like a window inside on the front of the door. And I look in there, and they're just sitting on a couch, and they're laughing. And they're laughing. And, I'm on Trent at the time. So I'm a little hot headed right now, and I'm already pissed. So I see they're in there just laughing, and they're not opening the door. So what did I do? I took a step back, and then I walked right through the door, just like the Hulk. Like the door like exploded. So I go in there. They go running different directions, and Stacy, I guess she ran and hid somewhere for fuck reason, I don't know. I guess probably I scared the shit out of them. And I said, I need my car. Where is she? What's going on? And the one girl is like talking shit to me. Anyways, I've only been there for maybe less than a minute, and the police pull up out in front. And so they already had called the cops before I even got there because I told them I was coming over. So I'm like, okay, the police are here. I guess we better go out and talk to them. So I walk out to talk to the police so they don't shoot me. And right away, they put me in handcuffs and they arrest me. Right now, I'm being charged with just like breaking and entering, something like this. Meanwhile, while this is going on, they searched my car and they found a gun and they found the steroids. And then I guess the girl took them to where I lived. They raided my house. They found more guns, more steroids. I originally had a $5,000 bond, and I bailed out immediately on the $5,000 bond. And then within a few weeks, I hired an attorney, actually, who was referred to me by my father and my brother, some guy they knew from the racket club. And I paid this attorney, I believe it was $32,000. And that was a lot of money back then.
It's a lot now.
Right. I mean, we're talking this is the
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
this 80s.
That's like $100,000 now more.
Right. So I gave him 32,000. So at the time, I had a lot of money because, I was doing pretty well with selling gear. So a few weeks goes by and I'm due to go back to court, and he kind of tells me that they're going to put more charges on me and they're going to raise my bond. Meanwhile, let me back up. My bond was 100,000 when I went in, and my friend Joe, the Hells Angels, put up his building, and there was 5,000 cash I had to put down, and he put up his building as a bond collateral for me to get out. So I told my attorney, like, what should I do? And he's like, well, you have to go to court, And I'm like, I know at this point I'm screwed. But, Joe is my buddy and he put up his building. I can't skip out because I'm not going to do that to him. So I go down to the court. They put me in there and they changed my charges from like breaking and entering and assault or whatever it was to attempted murder, attempted kidnapping, all this attempted. I had like 10 charges attempting. Everything was attempting, not actually doing anything. The steroids weren't even a charge because they weren't even illegal back then. But there was possession of the weapon. I had a Mac 11 380, which is like a kind of like a little mini machine gun. And I had a suppressor on there, which I don't know why I had that. Some guy at a gun show, I met him. They were selling kits, and I thought this is cool.
Yeah.
So I bought this thing, and people don't believe you could buy a kit and you could build this. It was fully automatic, and I had a suppressor on there because he showed me how to make this. This old Vietnam guy showed me how to make it. The only thing I ever shot with it was I had tires stacked up in the parking lot down below my apartment building, and I would shoot the tires.
Yeah.
But I just had it for.
Just to look like a gangster.
Yeah,
like
just
yeah,
and
it's kind of fun. You got the money to throw around. You got,
I just thought
I'm sure cool. A lot of people carry dumb shit that they would get fucked on if they got caught, but they just think it's a cool piece, a cool thing to do or have.
Well, there was that, but there was also,
I mean, you were dealing with probably some people you had to have protection for, anyways. Maybe.
Well, here was the thing. So I was dealing only steroids. But my customers who were bodybuilders, a lot of them were big time into coke. They were dealing coke. And I mean, like a couple of my good friends who bought steroids from me, they were dealing like kilos of coke, like hundreds of kilos.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of shit going down back then. I mean, people getting robbed, people getting killed, um, literally getting killed over coke deals.
When was this? Like in the early 90s or?
This would be no, let's see, late 80s,
Okay.
late 80s.
Okay.
So everybody was doing coke, and
Yeah.
I mean, my buddy who was like a teenage bodybuilder competed with me. He was like doing the coke, and he already had his like Mickey Mouse gang, and these guys were teenagers like me, and they're driving Ferraris, buying all kinds of shit.
Los Angeles in the 80s.
Yeah, I'm not even joking.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the stereotype.
It was for real,
Yeah.
and they're dealing hundreds of kilos of cocaine. So there was a lot of shit going down, a lot of violence. So I just figured, everybody's got guns. People are getting shot. I had friends of mine. I had one friend of mine get robbed in the middle of the night after we were supposed to go train, and then he's like, "Oh, I can't go. I have to do this drug deal." And I'm like, "No, man, I have a bad feeling about this." And he ends up calling me a few minutes later, saying that
It was a bus.
some black guys pulled up and pulled out machine guns on him and robbed him for the cocaine, and it turned into a whole fiasco. I had to go like talk to the drug dealer for him to tell him that like he got robbed, and then he ended up owing money. It was a whole mess. So, anyways, they put all these charges on me, and they raised my bail to $2 million, which it was completely insane. And all of this stuff is what I was going to do, not what I did, what I was attempting to do. So they put me in the LA County Jail on the $1 million bail row. The only other people on that row are Colombians, and one of my friends who's a big cocaine dealer at the time, that he had been busted with like 200 kilos of cocaine. That I think he was a little bit older than me, but close to my age. So I'm on this $1 million row, and everybody's there has got busted with like hundreds of kilos of cocaine, and I'm being charged with attempted assault, attempted murder, attempted kidnapping, all this attempted shit.
They're probably asking you, what the fuck are you doing here?
Yeah,
Because
it didn't even make sense.
yeah.
None of it made sense. Now, in hindsight, I will tell you why I think they did it, why they were after me. Number one of the girls, even though she was a heroin addict, her stepfather was chief of police at the West Valley Station. So basically, I had messed with the wrong person. The other thing was I had guilt by association. Even though I only deal steroids, all my buddies were big cocaine dealers, and they knew this. The reason I know they knew this because they came and questioned me, and they asked me, like, "We don't really want you. We want your friends.
Yeah.
You can get out if you just like tell on your friends." And it's like, I'm not going to do that. But they, it was like guilt by association. All your friends are big cocaine dealers. You're involved with them.
Well, they knew you knew. They knew you knew stuff. They wanted to exploit what you knew and try to get more info so they could make charges on these other people.
Right.
So they were using you to get to them.
And they were putting pressure on me for that reason. And also, understand this, okay? As a bodybuilder, you're a big muscular dude. And even today, people are intimidated. You don't even have to do shit. You could just stand there and be minding your own business, and people just look at you and they're intimidated. So now you got me, a big bodybuilder kid, and I've got all these steroids. Even though they're not illegal, I still had a lot of them, like 2 crates of steroids.
Did they try to hit you for the distribution at that time, or was it?
It wasn't even a charge. Steroids. They weren't even on there. I think it was a misdemeanor.
Yeah.
Yeah, the steroids, they weren't illegal.
Yeah, they were more worried about the guns and the attempted stuff than.
Well, yeah, because they could make charges.
Yeah.
So basically, they wanted me because I'm a big bodybuilder guy with guns, and they're looking at me like, you're crazy. It's only a matter of time before, you're going to do something. So we're just going to put a stop to this now. Well, this attorney who I paid $32,000, we're going through court. We actually go to preliminary hearing. My girlfriend the
Stacy.
stripper, yeah.
Fuck Stacy. Stacy's such a bitch.
Well, listen to this. So in while I'm in the county jail, I'm still talking to her on the phone daily, calling her from the payphone.
That's how toxic relationships work.
Yeah.
You fucking get in trouble and then you keep going back.
Well, not only that, but I was supporting her before that, and she needed me to keep supporting her.
Oh,
So while I'm in the county jail, I'm selling burritos. I had this. I was on the $1 million row, and I was called a trustee. So basically, I was a cleaning person, and that gave me the ability to like go all over the jail. I could go to different parts of the jail and wander around. And I would go down to the pill module to get medication. And there was these guys down in the pill module. They were cooking burritos. They would steal food out of the ODR kitchen, the officer's dining room, and they were making like these big beef burritos. And I would bring like several. We had these legal binders that we carry legal papers, and I would usually take like one guy with me, and fill it with like 20 burritos. So I'd bring like 40 burritos up, and I think I paid like a dollar a piece for them down there, and I was selling for $3 on the $1 million road to the Colombians because no one could get on that road but me. So I'd bring them up there, and I'd literally walk down the row and I'd just sell the burritos, and they had cash back then. Everybody had cash, and the Colombians, they had plenty of cash. So then I'm taking all this money, and at the same time, I've got a sheriff in there, and he's bringing me chewing tobacco and bubble gum and everything to sell to the Colombians too. So me and him are like splitting the money, and he's like helping me do this because I'm making him money. And I'm having him send money every week to my girlfriend on the street because I needed her to go to court for me.
mm,
So the whole time, and they actually tried to put a restrainer on me for me not to be able to talk to her. They tried to have that ordered in court because they were trying to convince her to go against me.
mm-hmm.
And after the thing was over, she realized that, the girls fucked her over. And now all of a sudden I'm her support person and I'm in jail and she's like screwed.
Yeah.
So, but meanwhile, I'm in there, practically getting my ass killed selling these burritos to get her money. So she goes to court to preliminary hearing. She testifies in court that this is all bullshit. He didn't do any of this stuff. But the other girls are screaming bloody murder. That, I'm this big, scary bad guy. Anyways, um, we go past preliminary hearing and they're starting to offer me like life. My attorney tells me they are. Oh, first they come in and say, my attorney comes to me one day and he says, "Tell me about the murders." And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Tell me about the murders at Gold's Gym." I'm like, "I don't know what the hell fuck you're talking about." And he's like, "You have to be honest with me. I can't help you unless you tell me the truth." I'm like, "I don't know what you're talking about." He comes back the next day. It was great news. We did some looking into it and there was no murders. So some jailhouse informant guy there, some black dude that was in the pill module, um, I guess he told them that I told him that I killed somebody at Gold's Gym, which I never did. And that never happened. And so this guy goes and makes up this story to try to get himself out of whatever he's in. And all of a sudden they're asking me about murders, but no one actually ended up getting murdered. So it was all crap. So we're going back. They're offering me a life sentence, and my attorney's like, in 7 years you'll be eligible for parole, and if you keep your nose clean. I'm like, what life sentence? Like I didn't kill anybody. I didn't do shit. And yeah, I kicked the door in, but that's life sentence. So, anyways, we're going back and forth, and they come to me with I think it was 12 years, 8 months. And I'm telling my attorney, like, I don't want to take this. I didn't do it. I want to go to trial. He's like, I can't go to trial with this. He goes, you're going to lose. He's like, these girls are going to hang you. You have the wrong victims. It doesn't matter whether you did it or not. You're going to lose. Now, at the time, I'm 20 years old. I've never been in anything like this. I don't know how to deal with the legal system. I don't know anything about attorneys. And they're just telling me, you have to take this. You don't have a choice. Um, If you don't take it, you're gonna get life. You're never gonna get out. All this stuff. And I'm like, I just didn't even know what to do. So I remember the day we go to court, and he's having me to plead guilty, and I'm standing there, and they're reading these charges, and they're telling me to plead guilty, and I'm not saying anything. And my attorney's like, "You have to do it. You have to do it." And he keeps elbowing me. He's like, "Just do it." And I'm like, "No, I didn't do this." And he's like, "No, you have to." So let me start talking about attorneys right now. I'm not going to say all attorneys are shit. There's some really good attorneys. My friend Rick Collins, he's an awesome dude. He's a great attorney. But if you think the attorney is on your side, you're probably mistaken most of the time. Just because you hired them. Okay, and let me back up on something. There's this thing that innocent until proven guilty. No, it's not really like that. That's not how the system works. You're presumed guilty until proven innocent. Once you get in the system and you get charged, you're automatically presumed guilty. You have to prove your innocence, because they're automatically going to try to make you guilty no matter what. And they're going to put as many charges as they can on you, because they figure the more charges they stack on you, something will eventually stick. So anyways, he's telling me plead guilty, plead guilty. And here's the thing. I already had paid him the $32,000. Now I'm in jail, and he knows I don't have any more way to pay him any more money. And he doesn't want to go to trial on this because he doesn't want to put in any more work on this.
You already got paid.
He already got paid. And the fact that I'm going to go, to prison for years, he doesn't give a shit, because he doesn't want to take his time and go to trial because he's not getting paid any more money. And that's how most attorneys work. And by the way, I'll just say it like this. You can expect most people to do what's in their best interest. And what I mean by that is whatever is good for them, they're probably going to do it. So if whatever is good for them is good for you, they're going to do that. But if it's good for them and it's bad for you, they're probably going to do that too.
That's good life advice.
It's just the way it is.
Yeah, it's good life advice.
And we have a friend of ours in trouble right now. And I told this kid, I'm like, "You're going to get in wreck. I know it. I see it coming." Sure enough, he's in trouble. And I tell people, he's in problems right now. Best to stay away, because you never know. I don't know about 9 out of 10, probably 99 out of 100 people will rat. That's just the way it is. When I got busted as a kid, I think it was myself and one of my friends. First of all, let me back up. Every single person that I knew got busted. Everybody that was involved in those drug dealing things, they all got busted. Every single one of them. And they either ended up dead or ratting, except for me and one dude. We're the only two that didn't. So almost everybody does. So you could pretty much count on, like, I don't care if it's your best friend or what they are, when they get put in that situation where they're telling them you're going to get 10 years, 20 years, 5 years, whatever it is, you can save yourself. Best you can bet most people are going to try to save themselves, because that's just how it is. So anyways, the attorney, like, again, he doesn't want to help me anymore because he's not getting paid anymore. He doesn't care that I'm going away for years. He tells me, "Oh, I feel so bad that you're a young guy and your life's going to get ruined, but you need to take this deal because I can't go to trial with this."
Yeah, I bet if you were coming in with a lot more money, if you had $100,000 in the bank, you would have said, "Oh, we could probably work.
Oh,
I could take that 100 and go to trial."
It's all about that. It's
Yeah.
all about. So understand this: what goes on in court in the legal system, it has nothing to do with what really happened. It has nothing to do with whether you're guilty or innocent. It has to do with who can put on a better show, the district attorney or you. And you're facing a district attorney who has unlimited resources, a limited amount of money to throw at this thing, and you have to fight this with whatever resources you have. So if you don't have money to hire attorneys to fight this, you're in a losing situation right away, because they will just shut you up and say whatever they want.
If you got a good attorney, I think that they'll run enough interference against the prosecutor that'll make them not want to put in the effort. They're in their best interest too. So if they got to put in a bunch of effort on your case, but if you got a good enough attorney that's pushing it against them, pushing discovery against them, then you know they'll kind of drop charges or give up because they think, why am I going to go to trial for this if I'm probably probably not going to win. And they like their record. They want the record to be all these wins and stuff like that too.
Another thing you got to understand, there's a politics behind this. And what do I mean by that? Realize this. Your attorney, if they're a good attorney, is playing golf and eating lunch with the district attorney on the weekend.
That's the one you need to hire.
That's the one you need to hire.
Yeah.
And while they're having lunch, they're talking about, well, I'll tell you what, I'll give you this one and you give me that one.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, I got this client, he's paying me a couple $100,000. I'm going to get a big payday. I need to save this one, but I'll give you these 3 other here. And you can have these 3 convictions, and I'll just let you screw them.
Mm.
Let this one ride. Okay, this is 100% for real. How do I know this? Because when I got my federal case, I had plenty of money. I went and hired the top attorneys, and I ended up getting 14 months on what was actually considered like a way big case. I was 24 months. I did 14 months. And the charges got from a huge thing they were trying to make out of it to almost like nothing. Now, they did have a weak case against me, but I guarantee you, I spent on my wife's attorney on that case, I spent 50,000. On my attorney, I spent 100,000. So it was 150,000 between the two of them. And I hired Rick Collins to watch over those two to make sure they didn't screw me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I paid him probably another 20 grand.
Well, you already had enough experience by this point. You knew,
Yeah,
you kind of understood the ins and outs of the system.
I knew you have to put money into this.
Yeah.
Otherwise you're screwed. And at that time I had the money to do it. So basically you can buy your way out of it if you have enough money.
Yeah.
If you don't,
you can buy an attorney that'll push hard enough against the prosecutor that you can
right.
end up winning or getting a minimal charge.
So anyways, they're forcing me into taking this deal, and I didn't know what to do at the time, so I ended up taking the deal. And I remember I got off right after I took the deal. I get back to the wherever I was in the county jail, and I call the girl, and I told her, I'm like, hey, guess what? I took the deal today. My life is fucking screwed. I'm going away for like 12 years. And now I want to tell you what I've been waiting to tell you for the last 6 months. Fuck you. You fucked my life. And she's like, oh, I could do this and that, and I could change I'm like, you can't do anything to me anymore. My life is screwed. I'm going away to prison. You're never going to hear from me or see me again. Bye. I was pissed because basically it's like, I remember one time I went to sell the burritos, and when I went down there, there was a group of Crips, and they knew that I was making money selling these burritos, and they didn't like it. So me and my friend went down there to get burritos, and we ended up getting jumped by like 6 big black guys. And when I got back up there, I called her and I'm like, oh, this happened today. And, I can't send you the money today because these Crips, they jumped us and they took our stuff. And she's like, oh, I don't want you doing that anymore. It's dangerous. And I'm like, well, if I don't do it, I won't be able to send you money. And she goes, oh, well, then just be real careful. Never mind that I'm about to get killed.
Yeah.
And anyways, so I ended up taking that deal. I was in LA County jail for 14 months fighting that case. And the LA County jail is kind of like the worst time that you could do because it's very different than prison. In prison, there's a lot of politics, there's rules and stuff. In the jail, you just have random people coming in and out, and there's no rules. So there's constantly violence, constantly fights. It's dirty as shit. There's rats all over the freaking place. They're feeding you practically nothing. They're starving you. So it's just a rough place. And after 14 months in there, I lost like a lot of weight. Um, of course, there's no weights to lift in there, and so I probably was down to like I don't know, 180 something pounds by the time I got out of there. They send me to Chino Reception Center. I get in there and I start lifting weights, and um,
That's like
it's
prison. That's like pre-prison, like where.
yeah, it's reception centers like they send you to a place where they figure out there's something you're going to get designated to a prison where you're ultimately going to they're and they're going to send you, but they send you to a place in the meanwhile to evaluate you and figure out like where they want to put you. So everybody goes to reception center first,
Depending on your charges and how you
depending on your charges
behavior.
and yeah, and what everything involved in
Okay.
your case and everything. So one day, they call us all in and they're to this room and they're telling everybody like you're where they're getting designated to. And basically they're just telling everybody, you're going to go to this prison, you're going to that prison. People are going to different prisons all over the place. And they tell me you're going to Corcoran. So I asked other people there, I'm like, what's Corcoran? They go, oh, you're going to Gladiator School. I'm like, oh, great. So um, I get on a bus there. You're shackled by your feet and your hands, and they're taking you on this bus, and we're driving like way the hell out in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the desert.
Central California.
Yeah, and I remember we get off the freeway and we're just driving, and there's nothing green. It's just dirt, sand,
Yeah.
in the middle of the desert. And we're driving. We must have been driving for 20 or 30 miles into the middle of nowhere. And I see this little silver speck way out in the distance. And as we get closer to it, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And we pull up to this thing, and it's just this huge complex of just like towers with barbed wire all around it and giant walls. And there's guys, prison guards up in the towers with called mini 14s, or like basically like machine guns.
Before we get too far, why don't you tell them about the different level, what different level prisons are, and what level Corcoran is?
Okay, so you have level 1, 2, 3, and 4. Level 1 is basically like the reception center or camp. Level 2, and in level 1s, people are like, they could be in a feds, they have camps where there's not even walls. Somebody could just walk out. And basically it's dorm living. You're like in a dorm.
It's like one level above house arrest, kind of.
No,
Like you're
not.
you're in jail, but you're not like the guards. There's not like they're armed guards, but they're not like looking at you every second with a AK or with a mini
Well,
14.
there's no walls. Like
Yeah.
you could literally, like if you're in a level 1 camp, you could just like walk out.
Yeah.
You could just walk out anytime. But
Are those the camps where a lot of guys just do like work? They'll be like picking up trash on the side of the freeway, or they're doing like maybe firefighting.
Well,
at
that's
that
a
level.
different program. That's called Caltrans, and
Okay.
that's like after somebody's been in prison a while, they can apply for Caltrans, and then they go
But
basically send them to a place where they're living in a cabin with a bunch of guys and working
uh
as like a firefighter.
but is that considered like probably level 1 or 2, maybe
No, it's like after it's like someone's already been.
like rehabilitation, kind of?
It's like you're almost going to get out,
'Kay.
and
Yeah.
like maybe 6 months, a year before you're going to get out, you can apply to go to the Caltrans to be a firefighter,
Uh-huh.
and then you go live in basically like a cabin in the forest,
Yeah.
and
And learn how to
you learn
and
how
you
to fight
fire.
fire, be
Yeah.
a firefighter.
So they're rehabilitating you kind of back into normal living,
Right.
from
But this is after you've already served
Most of yours.
most of your sentence. Usually people in level 1 are like, white collar crime
Okay.
type people, or snitches.
Okay. And
That
then level 2 is a camp, which is like what kind of
No, level 2 is not a camp. Level 2 is like a prison, but it's mostly dorms, and it could be like a medical facility, or
okay. So
it's just a lower level. And in other words, they're not going to put really violent offenders in a level 2.
mhm.
They're kind of people that are like, maybe they're trying to get out. They've done their time, and they're now trying to program.
Mm.
Program means they're like, doing a job, going to school, doing whatever.
Vocational stuff.
Yeah, try to get back into society, or they're a snitch, or they have a medical condition or something that puts them in that thing.
Would they maybe put someone there that's like a lower amount of time? Like say you only
Yeah,
got sentenced to 12 months or
yeah,
24
yeah.
months,
If you got a short sentence
you might go to
and the charges are not violent, they're not
level
serious,
2.
you go to level 2.
Okay.
Like on my federal case, I went to Terminal Island. That's a level 2, and basically, it's a medical facility. I had at the time I already had the condition because I'd lost my colon.
What's a medical facility mean?
Means that they literally have like a hospital there.
So you need medical or you're just at the facility that
No,
does
like
medical?
you need
Okay.
medical treatment, so
Gotcha.
you're there. Like
Okay.
they do surgery there, they do whatever medical
Okay.
treatment there. Um, but at the same time, if you're like a freaking killer, you're not going there.
Mhm.
Um,
They probably have medical at have level 3s and level 4s.
oh yeah, they
'Cause
do, but it's different.
yeah, it's just more locked down.
Well, what they do in a level 3, of like if you have serious medical, they'll just take you out to a hospital in the street, shackled up with
Mm,
some guards to get a surgery and then bring you
bring it
back.
back. Okay.
But this is actual medical facility where they actually have like sort of a hospital inside of the place. Like they have beds and whatever where people could stay, and they have doctors on staff and nurses on
Okay.
staff to treat people. And there's also people there that they're either like very short amounts of time, they're a snitch, um,
Mhm.
they haven't got any serious charges, whatever the reason is, so they get put in there.
Okay. So what's level 3 then?
So level 3, you're behind the wall. What that means, it's all cells, and it's a pretty violent place.
Mhm.
It's about as violent as you can get.
So it's violent because you do a lot of your program, you get a lot of like time, you can go out and lift weights at this
It's
time.
it's violent because of who's there with you.
Yeah, but I mean there's like on level 4 you're just locked down 24/7, right?
Level 4,
So
you're
level 3 is like the most violent because you're still interacting with all these people that have long-term sentences and you're still going out to program during the daytime, daytime hours.
right.
So in level 4, I mean, I guess just tell them about what level 3.
Level 3, the yard is open all day long except for when a riot breaks out, and then everybody goes on lockdown. And like for example, when I was in Corcoran, I think there was a stabbing every single day. Every single day they let us out on the yard, and at some point during the day, someone would stab somebody, and they'd lock us back up for 2 or 3 days, and then we'd be out again, maybe for a couple days, and then someone would stab somebody again. We'd get locked up again.
Mhm.
We'd be out for a couple days. There'd be a race riot. We'd get locked up again.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you do get to go out on the yard and lift weights. The yard is just like a big giant like a football stadium kind of thing with there's an area for weights. There's a basketball court and whatever, a track, and you can go do that kind of stuff. But there's constant violence. There's constant tension all the time. I remember in Corcoran, like always had my back against a wall. No matter where I was, I'd make sure I had my back against a wall because you just never know. Like something could jump off at any time for just any kind of reason. There's a lot of gang violence because there's like
A lot of gangs, prison gangs.
prison gangs fighting
Yeah.
each other. It's very racial. When I say racial, I mean you have the whites in their section, the Hispanics in their section, and the blacks and the others in their section, and nobody mixes.
Mhm.
Like you walk in and you go to the dining room, the blacks are all sitting together, the whites are sitting together, and the Mexicans are sitting together. And you do not go into another racist section because if you do that, you're in trouble. It's like unspoken, just you can't. It's super racist.
Mm.
Um, and and basically when there's race riots, the northern Mexicans and the southern Mexicans fight amongst each other. It started back in the 60s. Apparently, like I think it was northern Mexicans stole a southern Mexican's tennis shoes, and one of them stabbed the other one over it, and
They've been fighting ever
they've been
since.
fighting ever since. And they just stab each other for fucking any kind of reason.
Yeah.
They're the ones that are stabbing the most. Um, yeah, they're stabbing each other constantly.
All right.
So when a race riot breaks out, the blacks and the Norteños and northern Mexicans were just basically like the illegal, don't speak good English. They band together, and usually the southern Mexicans and the whites band together against each other.
Mhm.
Well, the whites and the southern Mexicans are against the blacks and the northern Mexicans. Why it's like this, I don't know. This is how it is. So it's super racist, super violent. Um, so when I first got to Corcoran, um, I remember they brought us in, and we walked through this yard, and I see everybody's mad dogging us as we're new people walking in. I'm like, oh man, I screwed up. This is bad. But your first few days, they put me in a cell with one person. You're like locked down for like a week, um, just because you just got there. They're not going to throw you straight out on the yard. And I'm in there with this older guy. Who's a old convict. He's got a parrot tattooed on his head. And he's like, "Oh, you're gonna be fine. It'll be fine. You'll be okay." So I get out on the yard, and right away I have to fight this big dude, just over nothing. I'm on the phone. I'd been waiting in line to use the phone, and while I'm on the phone, this guy tells me it's my time. You got to get off the phone. I'm like, I just got on it. It's my time. No. So they're like, oh, you have to fight him. This is just an excuse. They just make you want to fight somebody just to see what you're about.
Yeah.
So I go in the cell with this big dude from Long Beach, and I fight him. And I had lost a lot of weight in the county jail, so I'm like not as big as normal, but I still held my own.
Still scrappy.
Yeah, I still held my own in there, and we ended up in a wrestling match, and we after fighting and wrestling around for a few minutes, he finally he ends up on top of me, and he's got me like this, and actually I'm holding his arm so he can't hit me. And he's like, "Did you have enough?" And I'm like, "Did you have enough?" He goes, "Did you have enough?" I'm like, "Did you have enough?" And he's like, "Are you done?" I'm like, "Well, if you get off me, I'll be done." And because he's like laying on me, and so he finally gets up. He goes, "Okay, now I respect you," because at least I fought him and I didn't give up.
Mm-hmm.
So after that, they saw basically. Here's how it works. Um, a lot of people say that if you go to prison, you're going to have to join a gang. You have to do these things, and that all these things. First of all, this is not true. You don't have to do anything, but you do have to stick up for yourself, because they're going to test you when you get in there. And if you don't stick up for yourself, you're going to become somebody's bitch. What that means is they're going to use you for whatever it is they want to use you for. But if you stick up for yourself, that doesn't mean you have to be the baddest fighter or anything, but you have to at least show that you're willing to. You're not just going to like let them do it.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
You just can't be submissive.
you can't not be submissive, and you just got to be willing to stick up for yourself. Otherwise, they're going to use you.
Yeah.
And if you do join a gang, um, you're just in more trouble, because the gang is going to use you for what they want. They're going to use you to sell drugs. First of all, as a new person in the gang, they're going to have you do all their dirty work, which means they're going to have you go stab people. And there's people that have gone to prison. They may have like 6 months or a year to do. They end up with a life sentence.
Yeah. If you join a gang, you're pretty much staying.
Yeah. They have something called the ABs, Aryan Brotherhood, in there, and the code is blood in, blood out. What that means, you have to kill somebody to get in it, and the only way out is death. So once you're in it, you're in it. There's no getting out. So, but you don't have to join a gang. You don't have to do anything. You just have to like stick up for yourself, not let people push you around, and then mind your business.
Mm-hmm.
This is the main thing. I can tell you, most of the time that I was there, I talked to very few people. I stayed out of. I didn't get involved in gambling. Didn't get involved in drugs. Didn't get involved in any of the things that
will get you staying there longer.
Get you in trouble.
Yeah.
First of all, I'm not a gambler. It's not my thing. I don't do drugs. It's not my thing. and I'm not into queers, so that's not my thing either.
Did
So
you ever get put on solitary?
when I was in the county jail, I got put in solitary several times for getting caught with the burritos.
Ah.
And that was they stuffed you in this little tiny fucking hole, like of a cell that was so small you couldn't even stand up in it. You could just like lay down on this thing. You gotta like climb in there and lay down, and there's like 3 feet above you
Yeah,
in your head, and they had a fucking bright light on in your face,
the
so
whole
you couldn't
time.
sleep. It was just intentional torture.
Brutal.
So there I was in solitary. When I went to prison, I pretty much didn't get in trouble because I just stayed to myself. So I was in Chino for no, I'm sorry, not Chino, Corcoran. I was there Corcoran for a year and a half. And during that time, we had a couple race riots. Um, and I when there was a race riot, I had to get involved. You don't really have a choice because it's like
Yeah,
people are
everyone's fighting.
everybody's fighting, and you just some guy. I remember some guy came at me with like a broomstick, and he tried to hit me with it, and I put my arm up, and the broomstick broke over my arm, and then it was like sharp. And then he started trying to
Stab you.
stab me with like a spear, and I remember I pulled the stick away from him, threw it on the ground, and went after him, and he just like ran, and but it was pretty crazy. But basically, I had to get involved in it because one of my friends got jumped by a bunch of blacks in the back of the kitchen, and that kicked off a race riot. And then we ended up fighting in the back of the kitchen until cops started shooting the Mini 14s,
Hmm.
and then people hit the ground. Oh, and by the way, that's another thing. The cops there shoot and kill. It's no joke. I remember we were on lockdown for I guess some guys got into it, two cellies, two black guys, and I was working in the kitchen at the time, and they were escorting these two black guys across the prison yard towards wherever they were going, and we were watching through the window of the kitchen, and one guy is being escorted by one CO, and the other guy is escorted by another CO, and they're about 20 feet apart. And I don't know what this idiot was thinking, but he broke loose from the guy he was with, and he started running towards the other guy. Well, he didn't get 2 feet, and that Mini 14 shot him straight in the chest,
Hmm.
dropped him freaking to the ground. They came out with a gurney, and he was dead. They put him on the gurney, put a sheet over him, and they carted him away.
Yeah.
They don't mess around there. So there's actually signs that say no warning shots fired. So if you do something and basically a CEO is
They need
in
it.
danger, they're just going to kill you.
Yeah.
No questions. Um, so I was there for about a year and a half, and like I said, it was constant tension, constant violence. I managed to do okay because once I got there, I started lifting weights again, and I put my size back on pretty fast actually. And I was working in the kitchen, so I was getting plenty of food. Um, so people kind of left me alone because they already saw that I was willing to fight. I had stuck up for myself when I needed to. Um, but here's an interesting one. There was a kid named Dusty. He was same age as me, and he came in about the same time as I did into Corcoran. And I remember Dusty came in wearing his Ray-Bans, and he had some tattoos, just a few. And he got into it with this short little buff guy named Rascal, who was a Mexican, something in the Mexican mafia. I don't know what they were beefing about, but Rascal's standing in front of his cell with his shirt off, and he's berating him. And Dusty says something, and Rascal just bitch slapped him. And Dusty tucks his tail between his legs and just walks away. Doesn't do shit. Now, basically, the way it works in there is if someone calls you out, in other words, someone challenges you to a fight, you're going to go in a cell and you're going to lock it up. And what that means is you're going to go fight in the cell. That's the way it usually works. And you don't have a choice. If someone calls you out, you're going to go fight in the cell. If you don't go fight in the cell, then right away you just showed everybody that you're a bitch,
Then
and
they
now
have respect.
and you lose respect, and now everybody's going to take advantage of you
Yeah.
for whatever they want to do. So, anyways, um, I was in Corcoran for like a year and a half, and because of my medical condition, there's a place called CMC, California Men's Colony in San Luis Obispo, which is a medical facility. And my mother's husband at the time was a psychologist, and he had a friend who was a psychologist that worked at
CMC.
CMC. So he was able to get me transferred over there on what they call a 90-day op, which means you're just going there for an observation. And while I was there, he was able to pull some strings and was able to get me to stay there, which was like probably the best thing that ever happened for me in those circumstances. Because if I had stayed in Corcoran that whole time, I don't know what I would have been like coming out of there.
Mm.
But CMC was a medical facility, it was a programming institution. They had college there, they had a powerlifting team, they had like a full on gym, like indoor gym, as well as the outdoor piles. That just a it was a programming institution. I mean, people are a lot of lifers there trying to like be on best behavior to try to get parole, um, and just other people just trying to get out. And that was a level two, I believe. Yeah, that was a level two. You're still in cell living, but it's not as violent, and you're able to. There is violence that goes on, but it's not like that. Not like race
Mhm.
riots, not every day.
Not daily.
No, not the same. I mean, there, basically, maybe fist fights, but there's not people stabbing each other all day long.
Mm.
Um, and if somebody is in a level two and they do something there and you screw up, if you decide you want to go stab somebody, you're going to go right back to a level three or a level four.
Mm.
So, you can't just. There's a guy named Wes Watson. He's, you know, talks about how, he was a shot caller in prison and he's all tatted up, this, that, and the other, and that he shanked all these people, and he plays this whole role. It's all bullshit. Because first of all, he was in a camp in Arizona, a prison camp, like no walls. You're not in a camp, and you're not stabbing people and staying in a camp.
Mm-hmm.
That isn't even happening. If you stab somebody in a camp, you're going straight to a level four.
Yeah.
Especially in a feds. Like they're just gonna gaffle you up and send you straight to a level four, and then you may work your way down over over a period of years to a level three. But you're not staying in no camp, and this guy never left the camp. So this is all bullshit story. You know, if you think you can just go to prison and just stab and kill. Now, by the way, there are people. There's this guy, John Stenson. He was the head of the AB, and there's you can just Google that, and there's videos about him. I actually not met John Stenson, but I saw him when I was in LA County Jail, and when I was a trustee, and I was coming from the pill module downstairs, and there was an escalator, and I was going up the escalator one way, and he was coming down. He had two guards with him. He was all shackled, and he was coming down the escalator on the other side. I didn't know who he was. The guy was like probably 5'6", 5'7", maybe, really white with really red hair, and he had gray eyes. And I remember going up the escalator and him coming down, and he was just staring at me. And I remember looking at him, and I'm thinking to myself, I don't know who he is, but that's the scariest dude I've ever seen. He looks like the fucking devil. And then I've asked people later, I'm like, who is that guy? And they're like, oh, that's John Stenson. He's the head of the AB. That guy had like, I don't know how many murders, kills, like for real.
Mm-hmm.
Like
he was staying for life.
He's in a
Supermax.
He's in a supermax now, like someplace in Colorado that's like 6 stories under the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, no living person gets near him.
Yeah.
But I mean, he was head of the AB, and he was, running shots, but he was never in a low level prison. He was like, I think he started out in San Quentin, then he was in Pelican Bay, Folsom, places like this, where he did all this, this stuff. And now, like I said, he's in the supermax. But he's been in, he started in YA when he was a kid, and
He was a lifer from the beginning.
he was a lifer from the beginning. He's a prisoner.
Yeah.
He's about that life.
So there's some of those out there, but Wes isn't one.
Yeah, no, because like I said, you do that shit, you're gonna get gaffled up. You're gonna get locked up somewhere where, where you can't do that stuff, or where it's really hard.
Mm.
Now there is, by the way, people in level fours. There's been situations where, like, I remember hearing about a situation where the ABs like killed like 20 prison guards.
Oh shit.
Yeah, in the level 4. Somehow, I mean, these guys, they have nothing but time on their hand. They're like super mastermind. These guys are not dumb. They're crazy, but they're not dumb.
Mm-hmm.
And they somehow they got knives made, and they planned this whole thing out, and somehow, I don't know, they got loose and killed all the freaking guards.
Wow.
But of course, then right after that, they all got locked up and
forever.
and that was that. One thing I was going to mention, as far as the tattoos go, when I was in the county jail, when I was still fighting my case, when I was young, we would go to court. I would go to the Van Nuys court, and we'd be in these holding cells all day, and they just suck. There's just like these big holding cells with, they have 200 people stuffed in a room. There's not even room to sit down. If you can, you lay down and you get a toilet paper roll for a pillow. But you're just stuck in there. And one day I go there, and there's this really buff dude in there. And, me being a former bodybuilder, like, and being around bodybuilders, like, I'm naturally just friends with bodybuilders. So I start talking to this guy. He's a big buff dude. And he told me he just came down from San Quentin. He's fighting some charges, and he's going to court. And that he had been in San Quentin for like 10 years. And he didn't have any tattoos. And I said to him, how come you don't have tattoos? Because everybody I'd seen from prison, they were all covered in tattoos. And he said to me, I don't need tattoos to be tough. And I thought about that. And I'm like, this is one of the gnarliest looking people I've ever seen. I mean, not that just buff, but he was like a gnarly dude. And I thought to myself, yeah, me neither. I don't need that. I don't need to become part of this.
Camouflage.
Yeah. And I never wanted to be like, I never wanted to be in prison. I didn't want to be part of prison. I didn't want to stay there. I didn't want to be part of the gang. I didn't want any of that shit. I wanted to get out. My goal was to be a bodybuilder. I never meant to end up in there, and I never liked it there. Not for 1 second did I like it there. I hated every minute of it. But this Dusty guy, while I was in, he was in and out at least 5 times. Like, he would get out and come back and come in and out and come back. And I remember after I got transferred to CMC, I was out there working on the weight pile one day, and he shows up with one of his buddies, and they're all tatted up. Now he's tatted up from head to toe, like a Wes Watson. He's got his Ray-Bans, and they're out on the weight pile, and they're being loud and, talking all this high power shit and trying to intimidate everybody. And he said something to me. And I said, Dusty, listen to me. Don't play that shit with me. I know who you are. All your tattoos and that shit you got going on, that doesn't mean shit. You're the same little bitch that rascal bitch slapped, and you didn't do shit. And just because you have all these tattoos, I know you're the same person. Mm-hmm. So you could fool everybody else here with your high power fucking talk, but you're not fooling me. You ain't nothing. And he was just fake.
Which a lot of these guys are that are tatted up.
A lot of these guys are tatted up because, I'm not saying everybody's tattoos is not a good fighter or whatever. What I'm saying is a lot of this is just like they're scared. So they put this stuff on to try to look scary, to try to make themselves look intimidating. But tattoos do not make you any tougher than you are. So if you get a tattoo that's for your personal, choice, you want to have one, that's your business. I don't really care. But it doesn't mean anything. Once upon a time, to have a tattoo, like we're talking way back in the day, like Vietnam, like people would get a tattoo and it like meant something, or the AB, they would have a clover tattooed on them. That mean they were part of the AB. But nowadays people have like tattoos all over and they don't mean shit. They're just, go get more tattoos.
It's just art now.
Yeah. So it doesn't change, who they are. Um, and like there was a guy named Spike at CMC, a big powerlifter guy. He was actually kind of a friend of mine. His whole face was tattooed, but he wasn't a tough guy.
Mm.
He wasn't a tough guy. He was just like a big dude. He was. I'm not saying he was a bitch, but he was not. He was not this scary tough guy, just because his face was tattooed up. That was. I think he put that on because he went in super young, and again, it was just like I want to look scary.
Mm.
But anyways, basically, what I learned is stay to yourself. Don't get involved in anything. I went when I got to CMC. I went to school. Um, didn't get involved with any of the bullshit that was going on in the prison. Didn't get involved with gambling. Talked to very few people. I mean, literally for years, I would like walk through the yard and I'd stare straight ahead. I didn't look right, left. I just stare straight ahead and I'd go to where I was going. I didn't make eye contact with people because sometimes you like eye contact with somebody and they're like, "What are you looking at?"
Mm-hmm.
So I just kind of minded my own business. Went and lifted my weights. Went to school. Uh, And my whole goal the whole time was just to get out. I was counting the days every single day. How many more days do I have to get out of here?
Mm.
That's all I cared about was getting out because that life wasn't for me. It wasn't about that. I didn't want to be about that.
Did you so you finished up at CMC?
Yeah, I finished up at CMC and I finished most of my college. They had Chapman University there.
Mm.
The professors would come in from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo and they come in and teach college classes. And you know what? It's interesting. Out of the probably 2,000 people that were in the facility, there's probably 30 or 40 of us that took the college classes.
Yeah.
But
Nobody wanted to.
yeah, the other people they just were into whatever bullshit they were into.
What'd you do after? Like what was that process like? Getting paroled and how did that go?
So, well, one thing you asked me about getting locked up. About a month before I was due to get released. Well, first of all, let me say this: when I got um, convicted, my mother hired some appeals attorney who wrote some shit appeal, paid him like $7,000, and it didn't go anywhere. They just rejected it right away.
Mm-hmm.
When I was at CMC, there's a lot of these lifers and they're fighting cases. And they would go into the law library and they do something called shepherdizing. Shepherdizing is where you basically look up cases like yours and you try to put together an argument based on this case and this ruling, I should be let out for whatever reasons.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually started working with one of these life guys on my case and I made my own appeal and I filed my appeal. And this was like, I think I filed it about 8 months before I was actually due to get released and it actually got granted.
Mm.
So my appeal got granted and I was released about 3 months earlier than I was scheduled to be released because my appeal got granted. This is after doing most of my time already, just because I didn't know how to do that before.
Yeah.
So again, here it goes. You throw money at an attorney, didn't do anything for you.
Yeah, a prison lawyer helped.
The prison lawyer helped me more.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but a month before I'm about to get out, they pull me in. They lock me in this solitary again in one of these rooms where there's just not enough room to stand. The lights are bright in your face, and I'm in there for I want to say 2.5, 3 weeks. I don't even know why I'm there. I have no idea like what's going on. At the time, I was working as a rabbi's clerk. And he came to see me a couple times and I told him like, dude, I'm like, I didn't do anything. Why am I here? And he's like, I can't do anything for you. He works for them. So of course he's not getting involved.
Mm.
And they finally call me in. This is after like 3 weeks of being in there. And I don't even know why I'm in there. I was in constant contact with my mom and my family and they didn't hear from me. So they started calling up, trying to find out. And I'm writing letters saying that, I'm locked up in here and,
Yeah.
I don't even know why I'm locked up in here. And they start calling the prison. So they pull me in to this room and they're like, do you know this Radu guy? And I'm like, yeah, it was some dude that I lifted weights with. He was a lifer.
Mm.
do you know this other guy? I'm like, yeah, he's another dude I lifted weights with. And they're like, tell us about the escape plan. I'm like, what? I don't know anything about an escape plan. And then one of the cops, he starts like hitting his glove. He's like, I could do this. And I'm handcuffed behind my back. Now I'm pissed at this point. I'm like, what are you going to hit me? I'm like, go ahead, hit me. Go ahead. I like, you're a little bitch. Take these handcuffs off. Let's see if you hit me then. Because I'm pissed. Right now, I don't give a shit. I've been locked up for 3 weeks in here for nothing. And they're telling me about an escape plan. I have no idea what they're talking about. And anyway, it turns out, I guess these lifers were planning some kind of escape. They got found out. And because I was lifting weights with them, they just pulled me in on it, thinking that maybe I know something about it. I said, I'm getting out in like 2 weeks. Why in the fuck would I escape now? After all these years, I'm going to start escaping? Like, this is stupid. So they let me out, and I think I had like 3 more weeks there. And I remember every time I'd walk through the hallways, the gooners would come by. Those were those guys with the gloves, and they would just mad dog me because, I told them basically, fuck you, while they were, trying to play good cop, bad cop with me
Mm.
to talk about this bullshit.
Do you think the guards get mad that you're getting out? Almost like, they just want to enrage you, so you fight them, so you get another charge, or you get
No, but I'll tell you what did happen one time. When I was in Corcoran working in the kitchen, there was this little fat little guard, little fucking fat pudgy dude. And I'm just working in the kitchen. And he says to this black guy, he goes, hey, Pollock here. He said, and the black guy is looking at me like he's all ready to fight. And I'm like, listen, dude. I said to the black guy, I'm like, listen, man, I don't know who you are. I don't know your name. I don't know what this asshole's trying to do here, but don't let him fucking cause us to get in a wreck because I didn't say shit about you. I'm not scared of you. I'm not scared to fight you, but I
not
don't
over
want
nothing.
I don't want to fight you because I don't even know you and I have nothing against you.
Yeah.
And the black guy looks at him, he looks at me, and he's like, he realized
Yeah.
that the guy was just trying to start shit.
I mean, I'm sure they want to see people. It's
Oh, yeah.
entertaining. I mean, that's why the UFC is a big thing, and I'm sure guards, they want to
Well, it's
probably bet on it.
if you look up Corcoran, they used to do in the level 4, they would take people and put them in this little yard, and they'd fight each other to the death.
Jesus.
And they'd bet on it. The guards would sit around betting on it, and it finally the feds got involved, and they all got in trouble for it because they were like dogfighting people in the yard.
Yeah.
They would like put people in the yard and just have them fight it out.
That's some Lord of the Flies shit.
Rival gang members, they'd throw them in the yard together and just have them like go at it till they kill each other.
Yeah.
And they were brutal over there. The guards were like tasering people's nuts until they died and shit, all kinds of crazy shit. But anyways, when I was at CMC, I remember I'm coming out of my cell one day and I'm walking up and there's that same fat guard and he's working at the desk there. And he said something to me. I said, listen, you little fucking fat piece of shit. Don't fucking speak my name. Don't look at me. Just look the fucking other way. Just keep my fucking name out of your mouth. Because at that time, I was past caring about guards and stuff. I didn't give a shit. Yeah, after a while, you just get, like, oh, what are you gonna do? You're gonna lock me up some more?
Yeah.
I'm already locked up.
Locked up as you're gonna get.
Like, what are you gonna do? So most of the guards are actually cool, but every once in a while you get a dick. But most of them they just want to go to do their job and
Go
home. They don't want to get involved in bullshit.
Yeah.
But one thing I did do, before I even got out, I had a job lined up. I already had a job lined up working for my cousins, doing bookkeeping. And one of my cousins was an attorney. He had a law office. I think they did like personal injury or something like this. And I got out. I immediately had a job lined up as a bookkeeper in their office. So I had that job. And then I immediately got a job working for this door company called Vortex Door Company. And there was they installed industrial doors all over industrial sites, the big roller doors. And my job was basically to go out and find broken doors and
sell
them to get them fixed and put stickers on doors and stuff like this. And then I got, and I was finishing up. I still had like a couple semesters to go to graduate from after Chapman. So I went to Cal State Northridge. And while I was at Cal State Northridge taking a bunch of classes, and I had to retake a bunch of prerequisites, which was stupid because I already was almost like done with my degree, and now I'm back taking like PE class,
Shit you did already.
stupid shit. But anyways, they were requiring me to do this, so I'm taking classes over there, and while I'm there, they're recruiting people for a summer job for the Cutco Cutlery for vector marketing. So I didn't really know what it was, but at that point, I was just like, I'll work at anything. I'll do anything because I just need work.
Yeah.
So I went and got hired at the knife company. So I was working three jobs. I was working the bookkeeping job, I was working at the door job, and then I was selling the knives. And I did that for probably like one whole summer by working these three jobs. I was just like working nonstop. And I was like I did a couple of bouncing things on the side.
Mm.
But at that time, like I was over the bouncing. Like
Yeah.
I didn't want to do it. But I just needed to work. So I did that stuff for like 3 months, and the manager, the knife selling company, kept telling me, why you want to do so many different jobs? Why don't you just do one job and do more of it? But the knife job was like straight commission,
Mhm.
and I was like, I'm not sure. I don't want to quit my
Hourly.
hourly thing because I don't know if this is gonna work. But I actually realized after I was doing pretty good selling the knives, and after like 3 months, I'm like, man, I'm making more money selling these knives, and I can my own schedule. I can go kind of do what I want, make my own hours, do my thing.
Were you on parole by this time, or were
I
you
was on, yes, I was
okay?
on parole.
So you had to have a job to stay out. Uh, Would they have thrown you back in if you didn't have a job, being on parole, or is it just they kind of like want you to work?
I remember, I don't think it was a requirement,
Mm-hmm.
but I needed a job because I needed to make
Yeah,
money.
yeah, everyone
You know,
does.
what parole or no parole, I needed to make money. I had to pay for stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't want to come out living on mom and dad. I had to.
Mm-hmm.
I stayed with my mom for a couple of months, and then I got my own apartment down like Cal State Northridge, in like the student housing, and
Do you remember how long you were on parole after you got out of prison?
I think it was 3 years.
Okay.
I think it was 3 years. But yeah, I just started working these jobs, and then like I said, after like 3 months, like I'm kicking ass at the knife job, and I'm like, man, my knife job paycheck is like more than all these other two jobs combined. So then I quit those other jobs and I went full board just selling the knives. And within my first year, I got promoted to district manager.
Mm.
And then I was with that company as a district manager for 10 years.
Let's let's go back a little bit to when you were fighting your first case. Do you think you could have done anything differently? You know, maybe I don't know if there's somebody in the situation here where you say, maybe interview the lawyers better, maybe deal with friend lawyers where they can kind of like almost what you had with Rick Collins, where someone, could look over the case and make sure that your lawyer isn't fucking you, just because they're lazy. So is there something you could have done differently at that time, or
Yeah,
you were
here's
just so naive you didn't really understand what you
okay.
were getting
Well,
into?
first of all, I'm in a fucked situation right then because
Yeah,
like
you had a lot of charges.
I'm in there
You're in
with a $2
prison.
million bail.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of charges, and my lawyer's quitting on me. He
Mhm.
already got paid.
Yeah.
What I should have done, and I wish I would have done, is I should have told that lawyer to go fuck himself, and I should have gone to trial.
Hmm.
I should have said, I'm going to trial with or without you. If I have to get a public defender, I'm not pleading guilty to this shit.
Hmm.
There's no way I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
And I should have just told him no. I should not have agreed to that.
So basically, your advice would be don't let them intimidate you into taking a charge, taking a
So when I was on
case
my
conviction.
federal case, they really wanted to get me on that federal case, like bad. But they had no case against me. I didn't get killed. I never got caught with one pill, not one vial, not nothing. It was a conspiracy to distribute.
Hmm.
So they had like no case on me. While I'm on that case, um, I'm driving to work one day, And I'm driving down Santa Rosa Road, which is like an empty road. It's like 10 o'clock in the morning. There's not a single car on the road except the one car in front of me. We stop at a signal. The light turns green. The car in front of me starts to go. I start to go. The lady hits her brakes. I hit my brakes. I stopped and I barely touched her bumper, barely touched it. So I get out of the car and I look and I'm like, well, there's no damage, but let's pull over. We can exchange information. And this Asian woman, she gets on her phone and she starts walking up the street. Our cars are just sitting in the middle of the street. I'm like, where are you going? And she's like, my neck hurts. I'm like, oh, bullshit. Like there's not a scratch on her car, not nothing. Anyways, cops show up, paramedics show up, and my ex-wife shows up. My ex-wife tells her that it was her driving the car and she was in the accident. And I'm just standing around not saying anything because I'm on federal probation. I'm like, fuck, I don't want to get in trouble. This bitch, she gets in the fucking back of the ambulance. And I remember they're asking for her, right? And she's like, one time she's saying her neck hurts. And then she's shoveling through her purse, getting her stuff out they take her to the hospital. The next day, they come and get me. And they charged me with felony hit and run. And they put me in the county jail and they tell me this is strike 3. I'm like, strike 3? When did I have strike 1 and strike 2? They were going to retroactive on my first case, which was 20 something years earlier, and gave me 2 strikes. And this is going to be strike 3. And I'm facing life. And I'm like, this is insane. Like, I know for a fact this lady's not hurt. There was no damage on either car, nothing.
And you didn't run.
I didn't.
You didn't do the run part. You were hit.
Yeah.
You were there the whole time.
But they're charging me felony hit and run, strike 3. And my mom hired this attorney right away, gave him $5,000. He comes down and sees me. And anyways, he says, we're waiting for the medical report. I sat in the Ventura County Jail for 3 months waiting for this medical report to come back. And my attorney just keeps getting continuances. We haven't even been to arraignment. I haven't been to arraignment, nothing. And every day I'm calling and I'm like, what the hell is going on? And they're like, oh, it's a strike 3. It's a big deal. You're facing life. And I'm like, I'm freaking out in here. And meanwhile, my federal attorneys, I'm calling them and I'm like, I didn't do shit. And they're like, well,
if you're in jail,
why are you there then? And, they're ready to bail on me. These are the people that I paid a ton of money. They're like, oh, well, we got paid. You're in jail now. Fuck you. So anyways, finally, after 3 months of continuance, it's a continuance and continuance, we get the medical report. She didn't have a scratch on her. They did a full workup on her, and they told her there's nothing wrong with you. They sent her home with some Tylenol.
So they had to drop it from felony.
Well, it gets better. So the next day I'm scheduled to go to court. Well, I've got the medical report that shows that she's fine. So I go there and my attorney comes and I said, hey, listen, they're going to let me out, right? He goes, well, district attorney asked me if they could get one more continuance. I'm like, for what? He goes, I don't know. Maybe they just need more time to make their case. This is my attorney telling me this. I'm like, they need more time to make their case, and you want me to grant them a continuance versus getting out. Is that what you're telling me? He's like, yeah. I'm like, listen, you piece of shit.
Fired.
I said, don't fucking speak to me. Don't say a fucking word. Turn around. You walk in there and you tell them if they don't let me out right now, I'm firing you in court in front of everybody and I'm going to trial. Just shut up. He walks out the room. He walks straight back. 30 seconds later, he goes, misdemeanor, time served. I said, I don't want a misdemeanor. I didn't do shit. He's like, it's either that or you're going to have to wait 6 more weeks to go to trial. Now, at this point, my ex-wife is freaking out on the federal case because they're trying to pressure her to turn on me. And everything's falling apart outside. I'm stuck in here. So I take the misdemeanor. But meanwhile, my federal case, my federal bond is revoked because of this car accident.
Mhm.
So I get sent down to CMBC, Metropolitan Detention Center for the federal, and I'm scheduled to go to court the next day to see uh, a federal judge about this whole thing and my bond. And the night before, a public defender comes and talks to me. He goes, "Okay, so here's what's going to happen." He says, "You're going to go to court tomorrow. You're going to see a judge, but it's just going to be a formality. These judges don't like to do anything. He's not the judge on your case. So what's going to happen is they're just going to like put it over, and they're going to send you to Northern California to see your judge to make the decision." I said, "Listen to me." I said, "Tomorrow when we go to court, that judge has the ability to let me out, right?" He goes, "Yeah, but they usually don't." I'm like, "I need you to do this for me."
This is the public defender, or this was
The
your
public
attorney?
defender.
Okay.
I said, "I need you to do this for me. I need you to take the medical report and take the police report, and you need to show that judge that nothing happened and that I'm not guilty of this fucking car accident. And they need to let me out tomorrow because my fucking life is falling apart outside
Mhm.
and I can't stay here.
It's hard to fight a case on the inside.
Yeah, I can't stay here while this is going on." So we go to court the next day, and they bring in this U.S. prosecutor, and he's screaming bloody murder, that I'm a flight risk, this, that, and the other, blah, 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 even though I've been out on bond for a couple of years now and haven't run away. And the judge says, "What about this case here?" And my, what is called the
Public defender.
public defender, he says, "Well, there's no damage." He goes, "Give me that police report. Give me that medical report." He goes, "We're going to take a 10-minute recess." Goes out the room, comes back a few minutes later. He goes, "Let him out now, right now.
Mhm.
You let him
He
out."
could see they were taking advantage of you.
He thought it was, he read it. There was no damage. There was
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
He's like, "Let him out right now." So I basically sat in there for 3 months. They're threatening me with strike 3, life in prison. I hadn't even done shit.
Yeah.
I haven't even done shit.
And your attorney was just a pushover.
And my attorney was helping the DA. He was helping the DA.
Take as much time as you could.
And this is the agreement was the $5,000 was to go to preliminary hearing. I never even went to preliminary hearing. I didn't even go to arraignment.
Mm-hmm.
He just kept continuing from the beginning.
Uh-huh.
I didn't even go to a court date. So
I
when
don't even think that's legal. I think they have to charge you with arraign you like with
not if your attorney and the district attorney agrees to a continuance. They just kept continuing every week. They just kept continuing.
Yeah.
So they just agreed to continue and and it turns out that medical report was ready 2 days after.
Yeah.
It was already, they had it the whole time.
So
they were basically, the feds were trying to use that car accident to hold me in there so they could put pressure on my ex-wife to turn on me while I was locked in there to make the federal case.
mm-hmm.
It was just an excuse to hold me.
But if you would have had maybe the right attorney, they could have just done it. They could have done stuff a lot faster. So, I mean, maybe if you're in this situation and you think that your attorney's dragging his feet, fire him and find another one. I mean, I know it's a lot of money, but like, you know, if they're not representing you, you're hurting yourself more than not.
You're right. You're right. But at the time, like, I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah. A lot of times you're just in the dark.
No,
you're in jail.
He kept telling me that the district attorney's just getting more continuances.
Yeah.
But he has to agree to the continuances.
Mhm.
I know I should have told him, like, no more continuances. We need to go to court.
Yeah.
But anyways, just if your attorney is not doing right by you, you need to fire that person.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least tell him, get right.
Or at least tell him, I mean, he's just advising you, but if you kind of feel like he's doing the wrong thing, tell him, like you said, go in there and tell him what I want to tell him and see what they do. And,
Yeah,
that's a way to, make sure you're kind of getting represented the right way.
yeah, you're going to have to stand up for yourself because
Nobody else will.
If you're expecting your attorney to do it, I mean, there's some good attorneys out there. Like Rick Collins is a good attorney, but man, there's some really shit attorneys out there.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know what his motivation for all this was, but I'll tell you this. After I got out on that car accident thing, I get a phone call from another attorney's office who's like a collection office telling me that I owe him $10,000. I'm like, $10,000 for what? They said all the time he put into the case.
He wanted more.
He wanted, I'm like, the agreement was 5,000 to go to preliminary hearing. We didn't even go to preliminary hearing.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, well, and the guy's telling me, well, if you don't pay this, blah, blah, blah. I said, listen to me, asshole. I don't know who you are. Tell him to go fuck himself and tell him, let's go to court and take it in front of a judge. And let's see what a judge has to say about it.
Mm-hmm.
And meanwhile, you go fuck yourself. And
Yeah.
I never heard from them again.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of times, maybe in cases like that, they use, to try to get you to pay something. I mean, I've had medical bills where I call the hospital and I tell them, hey, this wasn't right. Like, I didn't get this service, I didn't get that. I'm going through the itemized thing, and I say, this is, they sent me home without this, they didn't give me that, and they knocked a bunch of money off of it. So a lot of times, you're your own advocate for. That's just a different situation, but it's the same thing. Like, if you don't advocate for yourself, you're just going to get pushed around. The person that's the admin there is just going to put your shit at the bottom of the stack, do the easiest thing so they can just go to lunch, they can get off work 10 minutes early. If you're not like, if you never ask or if you never go through it, you're never going to know. So a lot of these things is kind of like that. I feel like if you're,
I'll tell you this. When I was in that county jail for those 3 months, there was a law library. They called it a law library. It was a little room with a computer that you could get on and you could look up legal stuff.
mm-hmm.
And I went every single day for an hour, because that's how long they let you go, just to get out of my cell.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd go on the computer and I looked up everything about my case that I could ever find. And, any kind of like thing about it, charges, whatever, time and everything.
Great case law.
While I was in there, there was a guy in my cell. He was in there. He was a drunk driving accident. And he got in a car accident while he was drunk, and he was facing some time because somebody I think they get their arm broken or something like this.
Yeah.
Anyways, he tells me, he's going to court that day. And I said, give me your paperwork. I'm gonna go to the law library today. I'm gonna look up your case and I'm gonna see what I can do for you, because I just had something to do. I go look up his case, and he's facing 3 years. Like, all the charges maximum that he could get, he's facing 3 years. He comes back from court that day. He took a deal for 7 years.
Oof.
I'm like, dude, you were only facing 3 years. That's all your charges added up could only be 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow they
compounded
it and gave him 7 years. And he just took it because he just ignorant, didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people in jail
serving extra time.
I mean, I'm not saying people didn't do anything. Probably they did something. But there are a lot of people sitting in jail doing way more time than they should have been.
Railroaded because you're not advocating.
And I think, we're in an interesting time in the world, really, and especially in our country right now with this election that's gone on with Trump. Because I mean, honest to God, all through, like I said, you're considered guilty until proven innocent.
Mm-hmm.
I think finally the public is starting to wake up and see that this system is broken.
Yeah.
The system is broken, and there's a lot of people that are, get charged for shit that they didn't even do.
I think it's broken just because it's corrupt. And
it's corrupt.
I really don't know what can be done about it because it's such an established, widespread system. I mean, I know you're talking about Trump, and like he got all these charges by, the opposite party, and a lot of these things they already dropped them because they're like, oh well, now that he's president, they can't really do much, and so that kind of shows you that they were kind of trumped up to begin but
the fact that he won by such a landslide shows you that the American people
are sick of it. Yeah,
they see it now. People's eyes are open.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, 10, 15 years ago, they charge you with something. 99% of people, like, you got charged, you did it.
Mm-hmm.
They automatically assumed if you got charged, you did it, you're guilty, no matter what it was. And people are finally starting to see that there's a lot of corruption in this system and in the government,
Mhm.
and it's and I will tell you this: even though Trump's elected, those people are still in those positions. Maybe he's going to make changes. I'm hoping he makes some changes, but that system is still there.
Yeah.
It's still there and it's still running. And you're fighting a big giant, you know, corporate money making machine
Mhm.
that makes money on people going to prison. They make money on wars. They make money on all this stuff.
Yeah.
It's an industrial machine.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is, I mean, it's the probably the best we're the best situation. I mean, in other countries, you know, I know a bodybuilder that was in an accident in Dubai and somebody ended up losing their life and he was sitting in prison and now he has to pay the other person's family for that thing because he was just like in the accident, you know. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's like and that's a, you know, in other countries it's worse. It's more corrupt. It's more, you know, Mexico's way worse.
Yeah. Mexico, I almost got killed.
Yeah, Mexico's way worse. So I mean that's we're in like a bad corrupt situation, but it's just like the best situation that we pretty much have. So
But one thing I want to touch on, and this is coming around full circle to the bodybuilding world. I'm going to tell you something. You're a bodybuilder, you're taking gear. I don't care what you pretend or claim or whatever. You're breaking the law. It's still a felony. It's still a Schedule 3 controlled substance. You're breaking the law. So technically, all of us bodybuilders, just the fact that we compete and take gear, we're all criminals. No matter how you slice it, you're a criminal and you can get busted for that. And if you think you can't, you better check yourself because you can. And most people get busted. There used to be big steroid busts. We're going back, 10, 15 years where, the government was really after people for steroids. Like they go search them down. And today, I don't really think the government cares so much about steroid busts because
it
you
might
got
come back around. It could come. That's I mean,
it could, but I'm saying right now, it's been a
hopefully not.
while. It's been a while since there's been like a big national, you know, roundup around the world,
Yeah.
trying to get steroid people.
Yeah.
However, that being said, you get an argument with your girlfriend, somebody, whatever, you get pulled over for a traffic ticket, you get found with steroids, whatever, however they end up finding them by accident, you're facing charges.
Could be.
You could be facing charges. And right away, they're going to label you as a criminal. So hopefully, things change because, I mean, I never dealt like recreational drugs. I never dealt in cocaine or any of that stuff because it's just not my thing. And I didn't want to get involved in that kind of shit. But, as a bodybuilder, that's just kind of like what we do. We take gear and we train. And we're not out, no one's out knocking over the liquor store to get their testosterone fixed.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't happen. you know, most bodybuilders, they're working regular jobs or they're working some kind of job. They're not involved in like crime and shit like that. But just being the fact that you're a bodybuilder, you're automatically considered a criminal almost for just what you do. So just be careful
Yeah.
and never take it for granted that, something can't happen because a lot of people are very loose with this right now. I know a lot of people, they just talk about it
casually.
yeah, they'll talk on the phone, this, that, their sources, this and that. Like it's no big deal. And I know someone right now that's in trouble. And I knew he was going to get in trouble. And the reason I knew he was getting in trouble is because number one, the people he was associating with, I told him they're bad news. And number two, he was too loose, running his mouth, just running around, showing off, acting like he was just a shit, trying to act like a big shit and being loose with, with what he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him 6, 7 months ago, me and him sat in a restaurant. I said, dude, it's not about if you're going to get busted. It's when you're going to get busted. You are going to get busted. I see this coming.
Mm-hmm.
I've been through this enough. I see it coming. And I try to offer him a way out. He didn't want to take it. Now he's in a world of trouble.
Yeah.
So with that being said, just be careful.
Yeah.
Careful what you do. Be careful who you say things to. because you could do nothing and you can get charges. Literally, you can
Then
do
you got to
nothing.
fight them.
Yeah.
And they're going to swing for the fences on as much charges as they can give you.
And another thing is, you're a big bodybuilder, man. They look at you and right away they want to lock you up just because of the way you look. They want to lock you up. You're big, you're aggressive. People are intimidated of you. They want to lock you up. They want to charge you with something. It's just the world we live in. We live in a world where there's a lot of sissies. You know, people are just intimidated of you. You could be just the nicest guy in the world, and just because of the way you look, they're intimidated of you. And, you know, you end up in a court situation with it and in front of a judge, and they want to lock you up. They want to find a reason to lock you up. So you just got to be smart about it and try to like stay out of shit, you know?
Yeah.
Watch yourself.
Well, you want to wrap it?
Yeah, I think we've covered a lot of stuff. I wanted to do this because I don't think really anybody talks about this stuff, you know, really. You know, people talk about taking gear and training and this, but I mean, this is a real part of our industry. And it's just something that really goes on. So you could be doing everything perfectly fine and you could find yourself in a wreck. Just like I said, I got in that car accident, nothing happened. Next, you know, they're charging me with all kinds of shit. So just be prepared. And, you know, don't let people push you around. Don't let attorneys push you around. Don't be intimidated by courts or police or anybody, because if they can push you around, they'll do it.
Yep.
All right. I think we covered enough. Again, leave your questions in the comments. We'll answer any questions that you have. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll keep bringing you more content. And if you want to hear anything about any particular subject, leave it in the comments. We'll try to cover that in the upcoming videos. All right, Larry Pollock, Luke Carroll, Underground Performance Gym.
Boom.
Oh, don't forget, go on to the website. We've got HD Muscle, Chemex. We also have the Special K vitamins for sale. So you can get all that there.
See you guys.